everybody. Welcome to Bayou Bets, a special Friday edition, December the 29th, 2023. Before we get to it all, we will remind you that Caesars Sportsbook is official odds partner of Bet.NOLA.com. All the lines and spreads you see here on the show are from our friends at Caesars Sportsbook. Politely ask you, before we get into the new year, you will always know when we're coming on. Subscribe to the Bayou Bets YouTube channel. It's very easy to do. Go search for Bayou Bets in YouTube, and you'll find it pretty quickly. Thomas Casale is with me today. We're going to, again, a special show. It's a college football playoff preview. We're going to talk about the two big games. We're going to look at LSU-Wisconsin. We're also going to tell you maybe some of our more fun games that we're looking at for the weekend, as well as our big bucks and announcing who is the turkey of the week. The Bayou Bets crew will be on later on this afternoon. Gabe and Spencer are in the green room. Tom, what's going on this afternoon?
Not too much. I'm ready. I told my son that I'm going to do my show, and then he responded after that, it's 3 days of sitting. And he is correct. I am going to nestle in and watch some football for the next 3 days and enjoy life a little bit.
I don't think my family's going to let me do that, but I will try my hardest. I promise that we will definitely be trying. All right, we're going to talk. Again, this is all about college football. If you're here to talk Saints, you're more than welcome to leave a comment, and we'll show it on the screen. Mm-hmm. But really, this show is about college football playoffs. And if you have any predictions, if you have any comments, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the stream, whether you're watching on Facebook, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on X/Twitter, whatever you want to call it these days. We'll be happy to show it on the screen and talk about it as well. All right, now, obviously, these are the big games. You know what? I want to start off with LSU-Wisconsin, Tom, and I think this is an interesting line. The line is kind of going back and forth. It opened up at like 10.5. Then we realized that Jaden Daniels wasn't going to play. It dropped down to 8, and I think there was concern over whether Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas would play. They are playing. That spread has gone back to 10. So we're not really seeing that much of a difference between the line when Jaden Daniels was supposed to play and then when he opted out and is not playing, which I find odd.
Yeah, no, it is. And Jim, as you know, even guys like us who have been betting for a long time, sometimes we try to predict things and it doesn't happen. When I found out that Daniels wasn't going to play, I hit Wisconsin +9, not because I think Wisconsin's going to win the game or anything, but I thought maybe that line might dip down to like 6, and I was going to go back and bet LSU and look for a middle. That didn't happen, so now I'm sitting with Wisconsin +9 and a ticket that I want nothing to do with. But yeah, I thought it would take a little bit more of a dip because kind of what you were saying, not just because Daniels isn't there, but when someone like that usually opts out, there's thought that more are coming. And I thought that you always usually see an overreaction to a line. That one never really overreacted. It dipped a little bit, and then like you said, it went back up.
You know, college is so much different from the pros when it comes to betting because Aunt Mabel's don't move the line as much in college as they do move it in NFL. So when you see a line move in college, it's more of the sharps play in this thing.
Yeah.
So the sharps think that LSU is going to kill it. And we saw this earlier today. We saw with Clemson and Kentucky, a line that opened up at 7.5 in favor of Clemson and just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. Kentucky ends up covering. They end up covering all the spreads because Clemson wins by 3 earlier this afternoon in the Gator Bowl. So, I mean, if Vegas kind of took a hit on the people that bet on Kentucky because Clemson was able to win the game. So they lose, they still get the money line, but Kentucky wins by the spread. So I just find it interesting, the difference between college and NFL. I'm not as much going to go against the public or against the money in college as much as I want to do it in the NFL.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, about college football is very, very popular, second most popular bet sport in America behind the NFL. Right. But the NFL is the NFL, right?
Yeah.
So when you get to these kinds of games, I remember when I first started in this business and I would talk to odds makers and do those reports, they would always tell me that these games are the toughest because everyone's betting them, right? Like, even though a lot of people bet like Georgia, Florida, it's not everybody, right? Everyone's going to be there on New Year's Day. They're all going to bet those 2 games. So it's almost like a big NFL game. And I think it makes it a little bit harder to handicap.
I definitely do. I definitely agree with that. So, look, I'm kind of with you on LSU. I didn't bet it, and I don't think I'm going to because I don't like that 10. If it dropped down to 9.5, I'd think about it. That's how much that half a point makes a difference for me. But, Gabe kind of talked about this earlier, and I think that one thing you don't have to worry about here is Wisconsin doesn't have this overwhelming offense that's just going to overwhelm the LSU defensive backfield. So I kind of do
Yeah.
like LSU here. I do like LSU to cover, but, oddly, kind of like the under. I just don't know if Wisconsin's going to score all that much. I'm not going to play it, I don't think, but 56 seems like a low number when you're talking about LSU and all the points they've been able to score over the past. But I think if they cover, I think it's because Wisconsin can't score. And so
Yeah, and this is an old Wisconsin. Like I always used
Right.
to bet Wisconsin as an underdog in bowl games because
Right.
they're going to run the ball right at you. They're going to slow the game down. They're going to bore it to death. Like this is a different Wisconsin team. They don't play that way anymore, and they really don't have the pieces in place to play how they want to play yet. So yeah, I tend to agree with you. I think LSU runs away with this thing.
Yeah, and look, it's also an audition for Nussmeier, isn't it? I mean, he gets a
Yep.
chance to show whether LSU needs to dip into the transfer portal or stay status quo. Right now, it looks like, I mean, you'd have to think it's a better than a 50-50 shot that Garrett Nussmeier will be the starting quarterback for LSU next September, but I don't think it's anything but a fait accompli. So I don't think that they're necessarily going to do that. But, again, this is a great chance for him to shine. I think he's going to do well. I think he has been looking forward to this chance. There's a reason why he stayed at LSU when he talked about going to the transfer portal before. And stayed here. So that's what I'm most interested about in this game.
Yeah, and what you're saying, Jim, is kind of interesting because one of the things about the transfer portal is like LSU might really like Nussmeier, but when people get in the transfer portal, you don't know which one of these coaches recruited them, or
Right.
like, Cam Ward for Washington State when he transferred from Incarnate Word. You don't know if Brian Kelly was after him back then. And now that he's back in the transfer portal, so you never really know what these coaches are thinking or who they're eyeing.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And it's going to be, Gabe brings up a good point back behind the scenes. LSU did dip into the portal Vanderbilt quarterback A.J. Swan, but I don't know that that's enough pressure on Nussmeier. I just think he's going to play well. I think he's been waiting for his chance to shine. When he's got his few little chances here and there, he's done well, and I think he's going to do well here. Whether it's enough to keep his job and whether it keeps Brian Kelly from going further into the portal, we'll find out soon enough. All right, before we get to the playoff games and the national championship, we're going to have our big Bucks picks. That's going to be about half of our show later this afternoon. We've got both NFL and college picks coming up very soon from our crew here. But I want to talk about the Orange Bowl. This line is insane to me. And if it follows what I was talking about before, then it means Georgia will whip the snot out of Florida State because this line is just going up and up. And every time someone else from Florida State declares that they're not playing in this game, they're getting themselves ready for the draft, it goes up again. Now I think it's to the point of absurdity. I just don't understand plus 20, Florida State plus 20 and undefeated. I get they lost a lot of their players. I get that they're going to have a backup quarterback. I get they have their backup quarterbacks going to into the transfer portal as well in Rodemaker. But I just think Florida State's going to be playing for pride here, and I think 20 points is a whole lot. When you're talking about an over-under of 44, that means that Vegas is expecting a score somewhere in the neighborhood of 32-12. I don't see it.
Yeah, they don't think Florida State's going to score much. And listen, when the lines first came out, I mean, you can't bet bowl games like you used to, right? Like when this was 14, if this was 2 years ago, I'd have been all in on Florida State. I thought the line was way too high. Then you have to wait and see what happens. A buddy of mine called me today, and he's just like, how do you bet these bowl games? And he was talking about this Georgia game. And I said, I don't even know anymore. I said, Florida State lost so many guys, and now this line is 20. I mean, Georgia being 20 over a team is like a low level SEC team, on the road. It's so that's what they're equating Florida State to. I got to stay away from this one. I'm just worried about Florida State scoring. This is one of those games, Jim, that I'm worried. I'm with you. I don't know. One of the reasons I liked Florida State originally, because of what you said the other day, like, what's Georgia's motivation? This is a two-time national championship that hadn't lost in 3 years, not playing for anything. I'm afraid that even if they're not motivated, I don't know if Florida State scores a lot and then Georgia wakes up at some point and wins like a 27-3 kind of game.
Yeah, to me, Georgia playing in the Orange Bowl probably for them feels like playing in the Gasparilla Bowl. I mean, it's no different. I mean, they're just who they are. So I just don't see that. Again, I know I'm in the minority with our crew here. You're not going to play it. I probably am going to play it. I'm going to take the 20 points. And I'm going to wait because this keeps going up. Every day it's going up. So I'll see if it goes up again. If it gets to 21, I'm going to pounce on it. I just think that Florida State is a good play. Again, You're talking about a major Division I program who won the ACC again without a lot of the players that are going to play in this game. I just don't understand why Georgia cares. I don't think they're going to care. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game, but I think that Florida State's going to find a way to do some things and keep it within 20. Wouldn't shock me at all if this is a tight game going into the fourth quarter. I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying it wouldn't shock me at all, and I think 20 points is way too much to give a program like Florida State. All right, let's talk about the national championship playoff. And before we get to the two games themselves, you see the title odds there on the bottom right of the screen. They have changed a little bit since the last time we put them up a couple weeks ago. And you got Michigan keeps going down. The public's not really believing in Michigan all that much. They've gone all the way down to plus 200 for the first time. It's a 2. It started off at plus 150, I think. Now, Alabama's kind of crept up. There are people betting on Alabama and Texas because Texas started out in the 3s, and now they're at plus 235. Washington has kind of remained steady. They started out at plus 750, got to plus 700 quickly, and it's kind of remained there. No one believing in Michael Penix and company. Before we get to the games themselves, is there a number? I'm not asking you who you think's going to win it, but is there a number on there that you see as value? That's what we're always talking about in this show, value. And I think there is a value in this board.
Yeah, I think Washington at plus 700. I actually took Texas at plus 310 when the odds first came out. And this is why I took it. I think the winner of that game has a very good chance to win the next game. I do like Texas a little bit. I think it's going to be a heck of a close game. But with the odds this way, I just think people are just kind of poo-pooing Washington. This is a good football team with a future NFL quarterback, 2 future NFL receivers. They scare the daylights out of any defense. Alabama and Michigan play good defense. They play good defense against Maryland and Vanderbilt. They haven't seen Washington. Okay, that's good. That's interesting to me. I think the winner of Texas-Washington, I'm going to like them in the next game.
I couldn't agree more. I agree with everything you just said, and I think there's value as well on Washington. I don't think Washington's going to win the game. I still think Texas is my pick to win the national championship. We'll get to that game. Obviously, we might as well start with that game when we get there in a second. But I think Washington at plus 700, that's an insane number for a team that is 13-0. And I get they're in the Pac-12, but they beat Oregon twice. Everyone was all over rah-rah, Bo Nix, Oregon. You know, it was if Oregon were in the same spot, had Oregon won that game, I promise you Oregon would be about plus 300 right now, or maybe even lower than that. So to tell me that Washington's plus 700 doesn't make any sense. Now, a lot of people who don't bet a whole bunch might say, well, you're telling me Washington's going to lose. Why would I put money? Because we're always talking about value. What does value mean? I mean, we're telling you that 7-1. If you play this whole playoff thing 7 times, you can't tell me that Washington is going to win at least one of those times. And I think multiple times. I think twice. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think the Washington-Texas winner is going to win the whole thing as well. Let's dive into that game. Washington-Texas versus Texas in the Superdome, Caesar Superdome on Monday. It is the later of the 2 games. Washington getting 4 from Texas, which goes to show you that the people with money are still respecting this Huskies team, because if they were as plus 700 as there was supposed to be, this spread would be more like 7 or 8, because Texas is getting a lot of love, yet they're still only a 4-point favorite.
Yeah, I'm glad this game's on late. I'm really looking forward to watching this one. This is one of the games I've been looking forward to the most the last couple of seasons. I think it's going to be a heck of a football game. I'll say this. I think a way to bet this, I think both passing attacks are going to have a lot of success, because I think the strengths of both teams are up front on the defensive line. But sometimes in these big games, coaches play it a little conservatively early, not to turn the ball over. I would see how this goes early. If that total drops on the live number, I'm going to hit it, because I think at some point the floodgates are going to open and the quarterbacks and receivers are going to take over. I also think props on the receivers. I just don't see – you saw how well Washington played that Oregon running game. Texas against Alabama, that defensive front, they have arguably probably the best defensive front in football. So I don't see the running games I think both quarterbacks dominate. I think it goes down to the final 5 or 6 minutes. It's going to be a great football game. Like I said, I took Texas to win it all, so I'm just going to sit back and watch now.
I'll tell you, I'm taking the easy storyline here. Usually I like to pick something that's, a little bit more obtuse, I guess, and not pick something that's right in front of me. But Michael Penix, I can't wait to see what Michael Penix does in this game, because obviously he's going to be a top 2, top 3 NFL draft pick, and rightfully so. To me, this is a chance. Texas is the closest thing to me defensively. You talk about their front line. He's going to get a lot of pressure put on him.
Yep.
How is he going to be able to move? He's not a running quarterback. He's an in-the-pocket kind of guy. How is he going to be able to step up and avoid? And to me, I think a lot of scouts are going to really – not that they wouldn't be watching anyway. They're really going to be paying attention to this game and to see how Michael Penix does against a pressure like Texas. And that's the key to this game. If Michael Penix can avoid getting sacked more than 3 times, I think Washington has an excellent chance to win. That being said, again, I'm with you. Texas is my national championship pick. I think they pull away at the end, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if I'm wrong, and that they find a way to, Washington finds a way to win this game. Wouldn't surprise me at all. But that being said, I think Texas is going to win this game by 7, maybe 10 points. Again, pulling away, because I do think they're the best team in this playoffs. Quinn Ewer is going to be able to handle the pressure as well, because he'll have some on his side as well. We'll find out. All right, on the other side, the first game, Michigan and Alabama in the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. You don't get to see an SEC team in the Rose Bowl very often, but we will here. I'm going to let you make your prediction first, because I have definitely a strong take on this game.
Yeah, see, I don't have a strong take on this game. I've been going back and forth. I can see both sides. I do think it's going to be a close game. I think Michigan playing last year and losing. I picked Michigan. That was my pick in the summer to win the Big Ten, to win the national championship. One of the things that concerns me, though, and I don't know if it's because of injury, and this is where I think the game's going to come down to, J.J. McCarthy hasn't played as well over the last month of the season. And again, he's been a little hurt, but to me, that's the game. I think Milroe's going to make some plays. He's proven that. But what does McCarthy do in the pocket against that Alabama defense? Can he get plays down the field? Or is he going to hold on to the ball, take sacks? So that's what the game comes down to me, is how J.J. McCarthy plays. Because I don't think Michigan is going to line up and pound the ball at Alabama. They're going to have to make plays in the passing game.
I don't know there's a more improved player in college football than Jalen Milroe.
No.
I really don't. And, I gave them a lot of grief early in the season. I made comments like I thought this might be Nick Saban's last year, because I thought they would lose 3 games this year. I was completely wrong about Alabama. They've increasingly got better, and Nick Saban has proven once again, I think this might be his best job. I think what he's done with this team to have them in this position might be Nick Saban's best job, and that's saying something. They have a legitimate chance to win this championship. I don't think they will. Again, I think that Texas will win the national championship, but man, I want to see an Alabama-Texas rematch. I think that would be a whole hell of a lot of fun. But when it comes down to it, here's this. Jim Harbaugh can't win big games. He just can't. He hasn't, not in college anyway. He's proven that he can. And when it comes down to Alabama, you want to give Nick Saban 3 weeks to prepare for anybody, much less Jim Harbaugh. I'm going to take Alabama every day in Christmas. This line, there's a reason why Michigan's talent is way more than 1.5 points better than Alabama's talent. This line, and just by talent alone, should be 5.5, 6 points. But no one wants to. I mean, everyone and their grandma would be betting Alabama if this spread was 5.5. I'm still going to take Alabama on the money line. We're going to see what I'm going to do with Alabama in just a minute. But I definitely, if you're taking one way or the other, I am betting this in some form or fashion in big bucks, so I'll just leave it at that. But I would take Bama if I had to pick this one way or the other. All right, before we move on to big bucks, let's bring in our guys and Gabe and Spencer the Guru. And quickly, Gabe, let's get your thoughts on the 2 national championship games. And do you agree with us that the winner of the Washington-Texas game is the favorite to win the national championship, or our pick to win the national championship? And what do you see from these 2 games?
Well, let me just say that I agree with Thomas in the sense that over in the Sugar Bowl, I like the over. I think both Washington and Texas, I think their passing attacks are going to have a lot of success. I sat here and it's almost too easy for me to pick these games. And as you guys know, as bettors, for that reason alone, you almost try and find an angle on the other team. And, I did a preview earlier this week, which is up on NOLA.com right now, tried to pick against Texas, and I couldn't. I think Texas's front 7 is too good. I think Quinn Ewers, I would take him against almost anybody. But you know what, Jim? I'm going to disagree. I think that Alabama is the title favorite. I think they should be. Those odds right there, they're getting closer. And I wouldn't be surprised if, by Monday we see the Michigan-Alabama line flip and we see Alabama as the title favorite. For the same reasons you said, I can't pick against Nick Saban, and it's his best coaching job. Jalen Milroe perhaps the most improved player in the country, and you just won't catch me picking against Bama. And it's not just because I got him last January with a future.
There's just a difference to me in 1 week getting ready instead of 3 weeks, and that's where Saban's at his best, when he has a long time to prepare. On a short time frame, and if it is Alabama, Texas, the line's going to be something silly. Like, I think Alabama actually might be favored. So to go from Texas winning by 10 a couple months ago to Alabama being favored, to me, would make no sense. But I think that's what we're going to see if that's the game that we get. Spencer, what do you think?
Yeah, I kind of think that's the game we're going to end up getting, because I don't trust Jim Harbaugh. I'm with y'all on that. Feel like they're just going to find a way to lose it. And another thing I don't trust is J.J. McCarthy. I feel like he's an overrated quarterback that's taking advantage of a light Big Ten schedule. So I'm going to go with the recent trend of Bama playing well. Milroe's proven himself. So I feel like Bama on the money line's a good play. This Washington-Texas game, though, is very tough. Very tough. If I had to pick it, it's definitely not in my big bucks, because I don't really know what to expect here. But I'm leaning Washington with the points. I think there's some value with the 4, because I think Penix, he's a more experienced QB out of him and Ewers, so that could play a factor. But Texas, I feel like, is the more talented team, so I think they'll be able to get away with the win there straight up. But definitely a tough one to predict. And as far as the championship, if it's that Texas-Bama rematch, I think Bama will most likely get their revenge, but if they're favored, I could see value on Texas with the points, because I think that would be a very close game.
Well, we'll say this. The only thing that scares me about Michigan is this is kind of the game of Jim Harbaugh's career, right? I mean, if there were ever a time where he was not going to be a dog, and I don't mean an underdog, I mean a dog, a flat-out dog, because that's what he's been, in my opinion. He's done less with more than any coach, than almost any coach you can go through. He should have won a national championship before, should have won Super Bowls, in my opinion, but he hasn't done it. But if there's any game he's ever going to get up for and be able to prepare his troops, it would be this one, especially with all the cheating talk in the background, because that's going to be prevalent throughout. You're going to see that all over Twitter throughout this game, I promise you. All right, time to get to big bucks and our picks of the week. Gabe, Henderson. I can't call him giblets this week. He went 5-0 with a +9. Not only did he go 5-0, he's 9-1 in his last 2 weeks. We didn't have a show last week to talk about big bucks, but he's going all the way from $1 ahead from being last to being in first place and in complete green. We got a lot more green on this board. Finally, we got some green on this board. And you know what? Even the turkey of the week didn't do that bad. Who is the turkey of the week? Oh, it'd be Thomas Casale. What's going on?
My Cowboys let me down. That was the swing game. I liked them in Miami. It was a toss-up game, and I should have known they would choke.
But you got them again. You're going back to the well. Let's talk about your picks this week.
Well, listen, man, you're going to honor Jimmy Johnson at halftime. I'm picking the Cowboys. I love Jimmy Johnson more than my dad, and it's not even close. So I just think, a couple of weeks ago I talked about the Cowboys being in an awful spot in Buffalo. I think now they're in a good spot. They come home where they're a lot better. I think the pass rush gets to Jared Goff a little bit. CD Lamb has a big game. So I'm going to lay the 5.5. My younger son's a Lions fan. He's telling me I'm full of it, but I like the Cowboys in this spot. I took Ole Miss plus the points with Penn State. This is going to be an ugly defensive game. I feel like it's a field goal game either way. So I'm going to go with the more athletic SEC team. I am not a Penn State fan. Spencer talked about Michigan's schedule. That's a valid argument. They've played 2 games, Penn State and Ohio State. That's it. So I went with the points there. I went over Mizzou, Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. both these teams are in pretty good shape. And when you think about all the opt-outs, Harrison's probably not going to play, but Stover, the tight end's going to play. Henderson, the running back's going to play. I don't think there's going to be a big drop-off at quarterback for Ohio State. So I think you're going to see some points in that game. I went with the Texans -4 over the Titans. This is my favorite play of the week, I think. I just think C.J. Stroud coming back. I think the Texans coming off a blowout to the Browns who are rolling. They get back on track. And then, listen, it could be Debo Samuel over. It could be Purdy over. It could be McCaffrey. It could be Ayuk. It don't matter, man. 49ers, talk about points against that Washington defense. I went Debo over 58.5 receiving yards. One thing to keep in mind about Washington, they're the worst tackling team in the open field. That's not good news when you're playing Debo. So those are my 5 plays this week.
And Purdy, I tell you what, he's licking his chops to get back there after a 4-interception game. He can't wait to go against this Washington defense. I got a question for you real quick, and I didn't put it in my card. I don't like Tennessee, but does it scare you at all that they just played a couple weeks ago, and I'm going to ask Gabe the same question because I know it's on his card. But does it scare you? They just played a couple weeks ago. The Titans are wearing the Love You Blues, and the Texans use that to their motivation. Do the Titans, are they able to use the loss from a couple weeks ago to their motivation? They say, you know what? We can come back at you and pound you, getting 4 points. I don't know. I'm with you. I like the Texans if I had to pick one way or the other, but does that make you nervous?
Yeah, I just feel like the Texans are getting healthier again. You know what I mean? They've been dealing with some injuries these past couple weeks. Listen, I do like Vrabel, but to me, and I'm hoping I'm right here, Tennessee feels like a team that's kind of playing out the string, waiting for this offseason, get to 2024. So that's why I went with them.
I can't blame you. Again, the Sharps, though, they have forced this spread down from -5 to -4. So I think the Sharps are on Titans here, which is odd because they don't usually like Tennessee for anything. So it's a little weird one. Anyway, moving on to Spencer. Had a 3-2 week last week. He's climbing up, getting a little bit more green on his card. What do you like this week?
For sure. Yeah, I had to shake back after that embarrassing week the week before. So, yeah, hoping to keep the momentum going here. I like the Bengals-Chiefs under. I see this being a fairly low-scoring game. Chiefs' defense has been elite this season. That's the reason the Chiefs are still a Super Bowl contender. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce haven't been themselves. So, I don't know if they might not get back on track till the actual playoffs. So I think this game goes under. I like the under 44 there. And also like the Raiders +3.5. Liked what I saw from them last week. Antonio Pierce has kept that defense consistently strong. I don't think that's a fluke. I think they're legit top 10 defense now that he's in control there. So I think they'll at least keep that thing within a field goal against the Colts offense that's been kind of up and down. Don't trust Gardner Minshew in this spot. So I'll take the Raiders. Also like the Rams -5.5 against the Giants. This line doesn't make much sense to me. I know the Rams are on the road, but to me, they're a much better team than the Giants. Giants defense is brutal. And I know it's Tyrod Taylor now, but he's not a whole lot better than Tommy Cutlett. So I'll definitely lay the points here with the Rams on the road. Also like Mizzou +5.5. Not sure what's going on here. The Sharps must like Ohio State. But I'm going against them here. I think Mizzou could win this thing straight up. So if you're giving me 5.5, I'll take that all day. And then going with an Iowa under, Iowa-Tennessee under 35. Those Iowa unders hardly ever fail. And, and Tennessee's without their top running back. So I think they might kind of struggle offensively as well.
All right, some interesting picks. We'll see if we can stay in the green. My turn, and I'm going to go. I've had to change this around and literally changed one of these picks like 30 seconds before we went on the air. They've had a lot of line changes in the last couple hours, but one of the line changes that made me move this from one of my last 5 picks to my number 1 pick is Ravens. They've been 3.5 all week long. They went to -3 a couple hours ago at -120. That makes this my play of the week. I think the Ravens have so much to play for. I think they're clearly the best team in the AFC, and we know the Dolphins. A, they don't play well on the road, and B, they don't play well against good teams, even if they were able to beat the Cowboys. I just think against the Ravens, if Lamar Jackson's going to keep the talk about him being in the MVP conversation, he's going to have to be great here. We'll see if he can do it. Then I changed this teaser a little bit because we had some changes. Again, this was also a little bit different. I slipped Pittsburgh in there, +9.5. We always talk about how Mike Tomlin, he always finds a way to get a winning record or avoid the losing record, right? Well, if he's going to do that, he has to win in Seattle. I don't trust the Steelers to win in Seattle in front of the 12th man. The Seahawks still have something to play for. They're fighting for a playoff spot, but I do trust it to be a close game. And I don't care who's playing quarterback. I think the Steelers will find a way to keep it close. And then the Las Vegas spread just didn't make any sense to me. I don't think Indianapolis is that good. So you're going to give me 9.5 and give me the Raiders. I'm going to take it, especially the way Antonio Pierce has been coaching this team and keeping things close. Then I like a Falcons-Bears under. I don't know who's going to win this game, but it's going to come down to running games. They're not going to be able to throw. We're talking about winds. They call it the Windy City for a reason. Well, guess what? New Year's Eve, it's going to be winds 25, 30 miles an hour. They were talking about potential snow earlier. Looks like the precipitation's backing off, but the winds are even higher. They're even predicted to be higher than they were before. Literally, sustained winds of over 20 miles an hour. You trust either one of these quarterbacks throwing the ball? I don't. So we can talk about grounding and out. This game might be over in 2.5 hours. Give me the under 38. And then this is one I slipped back in. This is my number one bet in my NFL picks column, but I slipped it back in at the last minute because the line changed. It was +6. Now at +5.5. I don't like it as much. That half a point actually makes a big difference in a game like this because you're talking about an important number, a key number of 6. But I still like the Lions. I actually think the Lions are going to win in an outright. And, Tom and I were on the same side last week. We're going to talk about Cowboys. I can't do it. I just don't like what I've seen from this Dallas team the last couple of weeks. I know they're at home in Jerry World where they're much better, and the Lions haven't been great, but they haven't been great outside. Inside, they've been okay. And, look, I think Jared Goff's going to be able to do his thing here. I don't think either team's going to be able to run the ball very well, but if any team can, it's going to be the Lions. We saw the Cowboys gashed a couple of weeks ago on the ground. I think the Lions will be able to do a little something. I certainly like them to cover. I think they could win outright. And then we talked about it before. I never do a college teaser. I always tell everyone, stay away from college teasers. They don't make any sense. They're going to lose your money more than they're going to win. But I couldn't stay away from this one. At even money, Alabama getting more than a touchdown against Michigan. I think even if I'm wrong about Alabama winning, I think it's going to be tight, right? I don't think it's going to be more than a touchdown Michigan's going to win. It would surprise me. It would be one of the shockers of the bowl season to me if Bama lost by more than a touchdown. And then you talk about Texas. If you're going to give me points against Washington, it doesn't surprise me if Washington wins. But still, in a teaser at even money to give me 2 points with Texas, I'm going to take it, especially as my last pick of the week. We're going to go on, and the 5-0 guy is up, Gabe Henderson. Gabe, don't call me giblets. Henderson, what you got?
So my best play of the week is a money line parlay. I'm taking the 2 number 1 seeds right now. I'm taking Baltimore over Miami and San Francisco over Washington. The odds on this dropped. I still like it. The Ravens are 3-0 when wearing their black tops, purple pants all time. They're doing that against the Dolphins. It's strictly a vibes pick. The Dolphins are due to lose to a team that's over 500. So I like that. And then let's be honest, guys. We've talked about it. The 49ers are going to feast on the Commanders. Ron Rivera is a dead man walking. He knows he's going to be fired. The team isn't playing with any care. Jacoby Brissett, starting quarterback for the Commanders now, but I don't think that'll matter much, especially in this game. Give me the 2 number 1 seeds to keep it rolling.
But before you move
now,
on,
this
Gabe,
one,
I want to say something real quick. I was shocked at that San Francisco, that number. I had to look twice to make sure that was really the number on this parlay. I mean, This is like, if there were ever 2, that is the crazy number. I couldn't be behind you more. I'm just saying that number may look fake to some people. That's why I'm calling it out now. But trust me, that is the right number. That is a great parlay. I don't even know how you found that.
Just put it together. Like I said, strictly vibes picks there.
Well, you did a good job.
So I'm going to keep it rolling here with my next teaser. One little note, as Jim said, some lines changed right before we went on. And the Trevor Lawrence news, Trevor Lawrence is out. That dropped right as we went live, so Jim didn't get a chance to change this. The Jacksonville line has gone from -6 to -4.5 against Carolina. So with this teaser, I'm now getting Jacksonville +1.5, and I'm getting the Rams +0.5 point in New York against the Giants. Listen, both teams are fighting for the playoffs, and they're playing against teams who have nothing left to play for. Even with C.J. Beathard in there, give me the Jaguars. I think they'll win outright, but give me Jaguars +1.5. I think those are 2 easy picks especially for a teaser here. My next teaser, I know you guys talked about it earlier, Houston against Tennessee. Love the Texans in this spot. They get C.J. Stroud. They get Will Anderson back. This is a must-win. DeMeco Ryans is going to have his guys ready. Is the Texans search for their first home wins against Tennessee since 2018. I think they'll get it done. You guys talked about it. Vrabel has this Tennessee team just waiting for next season. I think Derrick Henry will play better than he did last time, but then again, it's hard to play worse. And then I like the Cardinals actually, plus 17.5. I've said it before when I've taken these teasers. If you give me 17.5 in almost any NFL game, I'll take it. I took him 17.5 a few weeks ago against the Niners. I'll take it here. The Eagles haven't covered an 11-point spread this season when they were favored by 11. So I'm going to go even more drastic. They've only outscored Arizona by 6 net points in the last 5 appearances, the last 5 games they've played. And listen, guys, Philly's a near 500 team against the spread. They're 7-6-2 against the spread this year. I'll always take the 17.5 points, especially, you know, as I've said on Fantasy Roundup with Spencer, with Kyler Murray, who's got something to prove over the next few weeks. I'm going to college for my next teaser. I know a lot of teasers this week, but that's the way it is. I actually like LSU to cover the 10-point spread, but I decided to just be safe here. Listen, Wisconsin has no skill with all their players opting out. I think their top 3 running backs are out. They've got multiple wide receivers, multiple offensive linemen out. I mean, they are just not going to move the ball effectively against an LSU defense that kind of figured it out in the second half against A&M, so it'll be intriguing to see. I like LSU here. I think Brian Kelly's good in bowl games. And let's be honest, LSU still has too much skill on offense, even without Jaden Daniels. Even if Brian Thomas and Malik Neighbors only play for a little bit, their whole running back group is back. I think they'll win this game pretty easily. And then I like the over 38 points in Georgia, Florida State. I'm not touching a 20-point line. Georgia has come out multiple times this season, and they've shown that they can absolutely beat teams down. They've put up 50 points multiple times on SEC opponents. I'm not going to say that they do that here, but I think they do most of the heavy lifting here in the over 38. And I think we're looking at like a 35-10, 35-3, 38-3 game. I think Georgia will absolutely roll. I think they're going to go out and their motivation will be that they're one of the best teams in the country. And then lastly, I briefly touched on it earlier, I love Alabama in this spot. Just for logistics, I took him plus 1.5 here against Michigan, but I like him to win outright. Nick Saban is 6-1 in college football semifinals games. Harbaugh's 0-2. I'm siding with experience, and Alabama's rush defense is much improved. Jim talked about it earlier, one of the most improved teams overall in the country, and I just don't think J.J. McCarthy is going to be able to pass on this defense. He's not able to win a big game. He doesn't throw multiple touchdowns in big games, and that's what he'll need to do here if Michigan wants to beat Alabama. I don't see it happening. Give me the Tide.
Thomas, is there something we can come up with for Gabe if he goes 5-0 again and 14-1 in 3 straight weeks?
Yeah, that'll be pretty impressive. I knew Gabe would have LSU somewhere in his picks. He's been talking against Wisconsin for a month now.
We'll see. Look, this is one of the most exciting weekends in football for sure, and not just college football. The whole thing of the NFL, the teams fighting, whether they're fighting for playoff spots or fighting for position. It's going to be a lot of fun. Final thoughts from my group here. We'll go from right to left on your screen. Spencer, what you got?
All right, yeah, excited for this college football weekend. It's finally here, y'all. The wait is over. CFP, excited to see what goes down there. I hope y'all are right about the winner of Texas and Washington winning it, because I surely don't want to see Nick Saban or Jim Harbaugh hoisting that trophy.
You ain't the only one. Gabe, what you got?
I'm going to disagree with Spencer. This is the one time I will say that I want to see Nick Saban hoist the trophy because it wins me some money. I actually, the one thing I want to say, I like Thomas's pick from earlier with Ole Miss against the points against Penn State. I just don't think Drew Aller has shown up in big games despite his 23-1 touchdown to interception ratio. And I like Ole Miss. They can score for fun. And then go Tigers.
Thomas.
Yeah, listen, Happy New Year, everyone. I'm looking forward to enjoying the 3 days of watching football. And as fun as this is going to be, next year we finally get that 12-team playoff, and I don't have to sift through as many teams to see who's starting, who's not starting. We'll have players here. We'll have meaningful games, and I've been waiting a couple decades for that, so I've been really looking forward to it.
No doubt about it. It's been a fun year, guys. It's been a weird year for all of us. We've had our ups and downs. It's hard to believe this is our final show of 2023, but it's been a whole lot of fun. And here's to all of us as a team having a great 2024 and be able to give the viewers and the readers what they want, and they want winners, and hopefully we can do that for them. Side note, I'm about to go on a show. If you want to hear me talk for 2 more hours, I'm going to have some good guests on 106.1 FM here in the New Orleans area, Nash Icon. You can find it on the web if you want, I'm sure. I don't know how to do that. I'm sure you can. I'm not going to go look it up. But we'll have some good guests talking Pelicans, talking Saints, talking LSU, and maybe even some high school football towards the end of the show. That'll be from 4 to 6 coming up on 106.1. Again, from my crew here, Thomas Casale, Gabe Henderson, Spencer the Guru, I'm Jim Derry. We wish you all a happy new year. Don't blow too many fireworks up. Don't get yourself caught up in all that. Just watch them from afar and watch the fireworks in college football on TV. We'll talk to you next week.